My name is Roslyn Waltz, and I'm going to show you how to set up ToonBoom so that it works really well and is the most efficient and gives you the most drawing space. When you open up ToonBoom, it looks basically like this, though I have the light theme set. You can change that in the properties up here, but we'll just leave that. It's a light set, but basically what we have here is we just have a lot of stuff going on. A lot of these extra stuff. It doesn't really feel like you can do anything. You got like no space to draw here. So tiny. So what you want to do is to start setting it up so that it's the most efficient, gives you the most space. So the way that I have it set up is a number of things. What we're going to do first is we're going to go to actually the overview workspace, and I'll show you why. So the overview workspace has all these nice thumbnails. Now in ToonBoom, you can actually draw on a thumbnail. You can also view all the thumbnails. It's really nice. I like to be able to see everything, but I also like to draw, like have a good drawing workspace. Nice thing about thumbnails is you can change the size. So this little thing at the bottom here, you can't get it by any other way than starting with the overview workspace, which, like I said, is right here. There's no other way to get to it. I don't know why. So what I do is I start with the overview workspace, then I build from there so that I can have this really nice, versatile thumbnails. Everything else you can change and move around. So what we're going to do is we're going to start right away, click Save Workspace As, and I'm going to say Fun Drawing. Not fun. There we go. Okay. We have our new workspace. It's usually good to just create a new workspace to keep everything set, though you can always restore default workspace, but we got our new workspace that we're going to work with. We're going to build. All right. So the first thing we need to do is bring in our drawing windows. It's very simple. You go up to this thumbnails right here, click plus, and we're going to select first the stage view, which is one of the views that you can draw in. We have this up here. I'm not a big fan of this extra space. Zoom out. So we got our nice little stage view. There's differences between the stage view and the camera view. I'll explain those, but for now, let's just pull everything in. So we got now the camera view. You'll notice it looks like the stage view for now, but there are differences. I just zoomed out. I use a lot of shortcuts, so you'll probably have more buttons if you don't use as many shortcuts as me, but it'll basically be the same. So we got those set up. Super cool. Now the next thing we need to do is bring in our timeline space. So a lot of people start, I'll show you. I also have my preferences set so that it saves my workspace as I go. Make sure that you do that before this, so that if you make any changes, it saves it. You can always start over, default. Okay. So I'm going to show you in the drawing view. So this is the default drawing view in ToonBoom. Usually people use the thumbnails to navigate. I like to use the timeline view to navigate because it gets more information into the space, but it also, well, I work in Animatics from the beginning, so I just like to have that open from the get-go. I also not a big fan of it being on the bottom. Usually I'm working lower, and I like more of my lower screen space available for drawing. So it's best to, I like to have it at the top. You can pick or choose, it's fine. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go back to the workspace we're creating, Fun Drawing. And we're going to add the timeline. So you can just go to this little plus by the camera view up here. Plus. We're going to add the timeline. Now you see the timeline. Now we can start. But it's overlapping. So in ToonBoom, you can move everything around. So if you saw that, what I did was I grabbed the timeline tab, dragged it, released, and now it's in this nice little floating tab, which isn't really useful until you dock it again. I want it at the top, so I'm going to drop it so it appears the entire top. I want it to fill up that entire space. I'm going to grab it. Need to resize the space so that it's... Now if it disappears like that, you just click this little arrow, reappears. You can make it disappear and reappear. So now we have our new little timeline. If you want to see more of the layers of audio that you got going, you could just move it nice and easy. We'll do that later. Okay. So now I want to set up the library. I like to keep the library available, but it doesn't need that much space. You'll notice with ToonBoom, you need all the space you can get because all of this stuff takes up so much space, and you have no space for drawing. So you really want to optimize the space you have for drawing. I'm working on a 21 UX, so it has a fair screen size, but man, you lose real estate really quick. We're going to create a little space for the library. So what we're going to do, we're going to do the little plus again, click library. So again, it appears down here, it says its default area, we're going to move it. You don't need all this space. And it just took over the screen. What is going on? I don't know what happened. We're closing it. Bye, library. Sometimes ToonBoom does that kind of stuff, so it's easy, you just close it, it's not going to break. So we're going to pull it over here so it'll float. Whoa, I guess it doesn't do that. Okay, never mind. New plus, library, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag it straight to where I want it. Doesn't float. Didn't go quite where I want it to. We're going to put it back here. I want it to fill up half of the timeline because I want it to line up like this. So I'm going to give it a little less space. We don't need that much. Now we have this nice little library here. I pull a lot of images for reference, screen caps, so I like to keep it available. Now I pull from the desktop because it's easy just to put things on the desktop and pull from them. But if you don't have the desktop appearing, which it isn't a default, what you do, you just create some extra space here. Right click on this white space and then you click Open Library. And then you're able to select wherever desktop's already open. So I like to keep the desktop open. Got all my little screen caps. You can drag any screen caps in here if you have extra information or whatever. Super nice. If you see me doing things you can't tell, it's because I have shortcuts. I'll show shortcuts later, but if I do any magical things, it's because there's shortcuts, and I'm just, yeah, that's another level we'll go into. All right. So now we got our little library set up where we want to. Super cool. We still got all this space over here. Now I'm right-handed, so I like this space available for drawing. Don't need this space so much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the tool properties. See, it's the brush tool properties. If you say select, it'll change based on the brush you use or the tool you use. Okay. Again, we're going to drag it, float it. I grab the color. I don't know what it is about ToonBoom, but the color and the tool properties kind of, you'll see, it's like they pretend like they're the same thing sometimes, but that's okay. All right. I want them to be over here, so I'm going to drop this over here. And then I want the color to be underneath, so I'm going to drop the color there. Resize it so it doesn't need to take that much space. I like to see if it appears, you just use a little arrow, put it back. Okay. It takes over the screen. So now we have our nice little color. We have our different brushes, which is also really important to get, but I'll show you how to do that later. Got our nice ToonBoom brushes and everything. Super cool. Now, I'm not a big fan of the default colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import new color swatch, or excuse me, import colors. Now, actually I'm going to do this at the end. I need to find my colors. Okay, we'll get to that later. So now that we have a little more space, we still got to move these things. So we got panel is where you put all your dialogue and everything. You can also select panel duration and stuff. Obviously we need that. I don't need it all the time, so I'm going to drop it next to the color. See that? And it docks it over here. So I have it available. Usually when I'm doing panels, I'm not necessarily drawing, and usually when I'm drawing, it's a different part of my process. So I'm going to move also the storyboard panel over there because I also don't need to see it all the time. Now we have a lot of space over here. The storyboard tab is where you can copy and paste all the scripts. It's good for some reference. I don't use it too much on my own, but if you're working with other people, it's really useful to be like, hey, this is your script. So I usually just keep it here so I can access it later if I need it. And now we pretty much have the basic layout of some nice space. And unfortunately with ToonBoom, there's still not that much space you can use. It's really a bummer. But this is better than it was before. Now we have all of this stuff going on up here. This is really personal, but I like to keep these one row because 2 rows, you end up losing a lot of space. You lose a lot of space. So I take the time to make sure that these only have what I actually want. Now that is going to take some time for you to kind of feel out, but it is time well spent because you will save so much time later on when you're not searching and clicking and confused. You want to keep ToonBoom as simple as possible because it can get kind of complicated. So what we're going to do is we're going to, I'm just going to save this really quick. It automatically saves, but I'm just being safe. I'm going to go to one I've already set up really quick just to show you something. All right. So I've got some pretty optimized space. I'm just going to show you. When you're setting these up, what you do is you right-click this gray area, and you can add any of these. Now, just take note, this is what I use. I use Tools, Storyboard, Layer, Onion Skin, and Playback. The rest I don't use because I use a lot of shortcuts for pretty much everything, but you might want some more buttons to click. I feel like shortcuts are the best for Storyboard Pro because it just makes you so much faster. Like literally, you can increase your speed by an entire fourth if you're not every single time. You got to go up, going up and click, 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 click. It is worth it to create a shortcut system that works for you. I will show you what I have set up, but everybody's different. There's also a lot of things. ToonBoom's defaults aren't the same as Photoshop's defaults, so getting a good shortcut system going down is really one of the marks of a true professional. Because if you're never having to click up here, you increase your speed by an immense amount. Because everything you're like draw, click, draw, click, draw, click. literally could take you sometimes twice as long if you're clicking around. So it can save you so much time. I have pretty much everything shortcutted. So I'm just like bam, 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 bam. I don't even have to move my cursor most of the time. I'm just drawing and copying and pasting and stuff. I developed that by starting with shortcuts that were really crucial to begin with, and then I slowly started adding to it. I even for a while had little pieces of paper glued to my keyboard that had what they were. That's pretty extreme, but it did increase my productivity immensely, so it's worth it. But we won't go into that anymore for the moment. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to adjust all this. So like I said, this right here, as you can see, is what I have going on. I have playback, onion skin, layer, storyboard, tools. Let's go back to the workspace that I'm developing from originally the overview. So you see it's a little different because it's different settings. I don't know what it is, but this just pops up every time. I have to just move it away. Okay. So I don't like this extra space here. I don't get over there very often. I like having it at the bottom at the top because just got to save more space. Now let's go through. I don't need file, don't need edit, don't need view, playback. I think that's what I got. Tool presets. I do like tool presets. All right, so tool presets, all of these you can move around, but they are going to stay at the edges. So I'm going to move tool presets to the bottom. It's a bit easier to get down there. Oops, went over there. I like to keep these bars where it's just easiest to grab. Do not need navigation. All right, see how the extra space it got. And we got all these tools. We got lots of tools. These you can set up. I'm going to move the little layer over here. Another one I do like, actually, onion skin is nice. I'm going to put that there. Tool presets is good. I like to keep all my tools kind of in the same area, just at the bottom. So I've got more tools than is showing up on my screen. So I'm going to, all of these are customizable, and I've already partially customized them. This is where you're just going to have to sit down and familiarize yourself with the toolbars, but again, it's worth it. When you want to customize a toolbar, you right-click, have to find that spot. Customize. Now, you have this long list. What I do is I went through, added some, removed some that I don't need, like paint, underpainted, do not need that, unpaint, do not need it. You know, you might need these things, but you'll just have to find it out. I used to use rectangle, but no, I'll use rectangle. What else did I use? Little thinking here. Paint, useful. Layer transform, important. Flatten. Sometimes use that. Flying, 3D flying navigation, I don't really use that too much, but it's good to keep around. Rotate view. That's another kind of more 3D element, but it's good to have. Okay, so we'll click OK. I have a little extra going on here for the sake of clarity. I'm just going to get rid of one of these things that I don't need. Okay. Anyway, so I got all my tools down here. You can customize all of them. So with your tool presets, you can create a tool preset just by going over here, new tool preset, and then you can define the attributes. That's another thing that you'll just want to get familiar with. You can also edit all your tool presets by clicking the gear icon. You can edit, delete, whatever you want. So I have my tools down here, and I have a bunch of stuff going on up here. Now, all of these tools they do a lot of different things. The ToonBoom website has a lot of really good tutorials, so if you really want to get into it, it's good to check all this stuff out. We have the onion skin, so the onion skin shows what happened in the previous scene. You can just select it like this, but really for its practicality, you got to click this right here, and then you can click how far back you want to see behind. Very useful. Now, a little thing, say you don't want this, I have some gray layers going on, but I don't like to see the gray layers. So this little red square next to the layer makes it so that you either see it or don't. So let's say we have it off. That's the default. We do a new panel. And if you see here, I just want to see the previous piece. It's all filled in. It's not very useful. So what I'll do is I'll throw the gray layer on not visible. I wish I could automate this, but it's not. But then when you go to the next panel and you have the onion skin on, you can see it even though it has that gray layer. You see. So that's something I like to make sure happens. The onion skin, you can also choose either side. See, it's also gray. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to see that. So I'm going to put it on invisible. Now I only see the drawing. So I can draw over that if I wanted to. Okay. If you don't want to see the onion skin anymore, you can just hide it. Onion skin just kind of takes over. It's unavoidable. Now we have, so that is right here, onion skin. You can put that there. So this is the ones I have currently: tools, toolbar, layer, onion skin, presets, playback. Now we have all these others going on. I have customized most of them. Like I said, you have to play with all of them, but I would suggest just copying these to start. And if you want to explore ones that I've hidden, you can. I would start with these because these I really use. Other ones I don't really use, except for the fact that I use shortcuts. But anyway, that's another thing. Okay, so not all of them are customizable, but that's okay. If you want to customize them, you just right-click on the toolbar and you click Customize. Now I'm going to show you something that's kind of unusual that most, is a fun little trick. So you can actually throw this. So this right here is a function. It changes the panel duration to whatever you want in frames. Super useful. I have my properties set so that it's default 24 frames because that's about a good guess. But no doubt you're going to want to change the panel duration. So this little guy, you can put in different places, but I like to have this docked with the storyboard. Wait, I'm sorry. Just hid the storyboard. We don't want to do that. I'm going to customize the storyboard toolbar. Just like it hanging up here. This, if you want to find it, it's right here underneath this little squiggly line, and you have the functions, and you can add the function as a button. Super useful. So you see in the storyboard, a lot of this stuff comes in automatically. New panel, new scene, new sequence. And if you don't have these as a book shortcuts, you can obviously have these as buttons at the top. You can, but it ends up getting really packed really fast, but oh well. So what I have is I like having flip scene, all these right here, so you can just see what I've got. They tend to be most useful. These other ones I don't really use as much. Okay. Lock scene duration. I actually haven't explored that. I'm going to try it out. Click OK. Now you see I have all my little tools. This is the playback, which you can play your scenes. And this is the layer. keep the layers around because it does a couple things that I need. So you have layer, new layers. I don't really need new layers because you can add new layers here. This is new bitmap layer, so it's like a Photoshop layer, and then you have new vector layer, which is the way I work. I used to try bitmap, but it has too many limitations. It's just better to work vector, and there's brushes that work really well that are vector that actually look like bitmaps, so you don't really need bitmaps anymore. But anyway, I think vector is just more malleable. It's more, you're able to change it more. Like if I do a line, I can select it and move it around and adjust it and delete it. Delete a single line instead of erasing. No more erasing. And it can look really, ToonBoom could really look as good as Photoshop now. It used to not be the case, but now you can. Selecting, gone. Oh, so nice. Also, the vector maintains line quality no matter how close you are. And it also makes this file smaller. If you start throwing a bunch of bitmaps, it can get a lot heavier. Like if you've ever done a lot of layers and say a 300 dpi Photoshop file, you're like, wow, my file is a gigabyte. A single file is a gigabyte. But ToonBoom, because it's a vector program, is way lighter, like super light. It's crazy. So like this entire, I could have an insane, like the biggest file size that I've worked on with music and camera moves and layers is like maybe a gig and a half, which is really huge. But I have, when I used to do illustration, I had 600 dpi multi-layered Photoshop files that were that big, and or even like 300 dpi or even like 150 dpi. It could get really big. Bitmap is just a less efficient way of using information. So ToonBoom's just good for saving space on your hard drive. You can have a lot more files. So you don't have to buy as many external hard drives. That's nice. Assuming you back up. Okay. So now we have basically a nice setup, lots of space. You can also, this right here, this mask, you can turn on and off by clicking down here. Super nice. You can also change these. I don't know who uses standard definition anymore, but ToonBoom has seen fit to keep that in the program. Like, who does standard definition anymore? I don't get it. Really, I wish they'd have, 16:9 so you can see how an anamorphic board would crop on a normal screen. That would be awesome, but we don't have that. Bummer. What I have done, because this isn't really that useful too much, I have actually turned this down here, if you see it at the bottom. Whoop, down here. I have turned this into actually a rule of thirds. I'll show you the settings for that. This is a rule of thirds. What? So much. Okay. All right, so this is rule of thirds. I will show you how to do that. Okay. Sometimes it's nice to be aware of where your artwork is lining up on the rule of thirds, so I like to keep that around. It's really the only use I've found for these title safe anymore, until they update it so that you could make it so that it's anamorphic to 16:9. That would be awesome, but until then we don't have that. So you go to preferences. In preferences you go to camera, and you'll see here safe areas right here. Safe areas. Action safe I keep at 10. Title safe I keep at 65. So that's the one that's closer. 65%, I did a bunch of testing, makes it a rule of thirds. Okay, so this is rule of thirds. Super nice. So keep that available when you need it. There's also other things like if you're doing an animation layout, because we do that. I mean, maybe, I mean, even if you convert to Harmony, it's totally useless. I don't know. I wish they'd replace them with more useful things like 16:9. Oh well. All right. So I like to work with this. If I'm drawing a character outside, I just want to be aware of their space. Like this. It's nice to see it because when you block it off, you know, you might draw it and move it. So this is where really the magic of ToonBoom resides, is in the fact that this workspace, say I draw a character over here, oh, oops, I need a bigger brush. Oops, I need a bigger brush than that. Okay, we have a character here. Ah, so happy. Yeah, look at this happy character. And over there, and for some reason I have like a big layout, all I have to do is move the camera. What? So, okay, I have the camera view here and the stage view. This is where you're going to start seeing the differences between the camera view and the stage view. Now, if you want to edit the camera, assuming you have put it in your toolbars, as you've seen here, if you haven't, like I said, you can right-click, customize, find your little camera right here and move it over. We already have it. I'm going to have to show you some settings soon. I will show you some settings, but you'll see here I have very little camera key points. That keeps it way cleaner when you're figuring out camera. It's actually easier. It seems more complicated, but it's actually easier to work with overall. There's the default camera. If you don't have a camera key point set, it'll still move your camera and remember it. So this is the camera view, as you can see here. And when you move the camera view, it's like you're looking through a camera and you're focusing on something else. And Control Z to reset. But if you want to keep this area the same, right here, and you don't want the camera to move with you, click Stage View. I'm going to have to readjust it a little bit. I'm going to turn off the matte. So now we're back to what we were looking at, zoomed out here. And they look similar, but they're not. They're very different. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera as I was like, I don't know, like a layout artist. See, I'm just moving it over here. Oh, and I'm resizing it so I can see nice and flat. So I can just see it as a whole and I can build more like flat. If I click the camera view, it shows me what I'm looking at. Can do just for the sake of clarity, we'll keep the camera view matted, turn off their little, do the stage view is what you left it at. So I don't want that, I want to be over there. Now you can see it's over there. Camera view is nice too because reset, just Control Z here. And I don't need you anymore. Okay. So in this shot, I have her, as you can see, first panel right here. Second panel, she's getting up. So we'll zoom in a little bit so you can see. We're in the stage view, so even though the camera is moving, the actual drawing is not going to move. So we can see what's looking. When we look at the camera, you can see that it's moved. And there's even a camera move here. But say I want to adjust this. This camera's not doing it for me. Maybe I want, and this is what's nice, you can kind of find shots in ToonBoom. It's amazing. Let's say I want to start as a close-up. Just check my camera move. Oh, that's what it looks like. And then when she gets up, it's going to zoom out. Of course, it's way too long. But I mean, way too short. So now it's like a close-up and she's turning and she's like getting up. So let's say that this panel, this camera move I have here, I want to change the duration. I can select here, my camera duration. Oh, it's only 12 frames. Oh, she's going to need longer than that to get a whole second, 24 frames. Go back to the camera. Stage view. So she's getting up. It's widening as she's getting up, and we're in a nice medium shot. So if you watch it in the stage view, it just kind of shows. But if you watch it in the camera, or it doesn't really show. If you watch it in the camera view, it widens, and she says hi. So that's nice. So you can change your cameras a lot. That's why it's useful. Also, you know, like if you're stage view and you want to draw close, you have to zoom in, zoom out, you know, move around. You know, oh, the camera moves, so now I gotta zoom in. It's really a pain. I don't really draw. I don't draw in the stage view. I only use the stage view to see what I'm doing, to really get an idea. I draw outside the stage view, and then I move the camera separate. That's the biggest difference between Photoshop and ToonBoom. Is ToonBoom, you can think really three-dimensionally. You can think in time. You can change things indefinitely. You're thinking like a filmmaker. Same thing with Photoshop, but I guess it's just different. Photoshop, you know, you're just kind of drawing, and you can obviously adjust the artwork, but it's just a different experience. I like being able to change everything. Okay, so I'm going to reset that camera move back to where I had it. Control Z, yep. So we're back to stage view. Like I said, this mask is just a selection. I can also do it in the stage view. I like to keep the stage view open in the camera view with the mask so I can just kind of aware of where I'm going. But it's neither here nor there. All right. So, you know, we have this camera move and adjust nicely. The other nice thing is, like, you can really adjust the camera. So I can really find that sweet spot. Do I want it to be a tight? Do I want it to slightly? Do I want her to select? You know, or do I want it to be right on that third? Or do I want to give her a little space? What's this? Oh, it's a tree. Okay. Do I want to bring in the middle? It's nice to really adjust like a director does, a cinematographer. Find that really nice staging. You do that. I mean, you know, in Photoshop, you'd have to adjust all the layers. I mean, if you have it in one file with all the layers, which is the easiest way, you still have to adjust the artwork or the canvas size. Oh, it's really, really nightmarish. Just kind of let it go, usually when you're in Photoshop. But ToonBoom, you can adjust like you were a cinematographer filming actual actors. Okay. If I'm not careful, I'm just going to start drawing. Okay. So, like I said, you don't need to have camera. These have camera frames, but default you don't need a camera frame. Just adjust, and it'll remember. If you wanted to add a camera frame, click plus. It'll add a camera frame, and then you go to your next spot. You want a camera frame, you can change it, and then I can adjust it, and so it'll turn into a slow push in, which can be really nice. You know, if I wanted to like start wider, and you can slow push in as she walks forward. It's a little slow. This is another nice thing about ToonBoom is you start really taking it to the next level. You start breathing life into it. Maybe I want it to, maybe as she's walking forward, I want it to stop here. So having it start wider allows us to kind of adjust it. Oops. So it gets kind of more intimate as she's walking towards camera. it stops when she stops. Okay, nice. Just those little adjustments can, you know, really make the scene come alive. But I'm going to Control Z all that. I don't know, maybe I'll go back later. And it kind of flat. That's a nice thing is you start with just the basic shot and then you go the next level. You start building just like a whole different level, really make it start playing. Even when you're drawing, it starts to come alive. All right. Now we have everything set up. Pretty good. A lot of good things are set up. This is a whole nother. I'm just going to go through all the toolbars. I'm going to show you the customization. So this is the storyboard toolbar. This is what I have. This is what is available. You can change. You can screen cap this and use it if you want. Then we have playback, customize. Oops, does not want to for some reason. I don't know why it doesn't do that. Okay, don't think that one's customizable for some reason. Nope, it is. Never mind. Wait, no. Yes, it is. Okay. I am looking at the layer. Oh, there's so many layer options. Reset, transform, so many things. You could play with these. This is what I got. Blur bitmap. That's the one thing I will use bitmap for, is when I want to blur a layer. That's the one thing I'll use bitmap. So you can convert a layer to a bitmap layer. Well, that's what I got. So cancel. And we're going to look at the onion skin layer. Doesn't have any customization. You just kind of look at it and then you open it. Obviously, there's file, edit, view, scripting, you know, there's all these other ones that you may want. You should explore with. Like I said, use shortcuts, so I don't use them, so I have more space and it's faster. But you'll probably want them if you're starting, so you can feel it out. And then we have, of course, tools. I have a lot of tools available. I'm going to show you the customization of my tools. That's what we got. And there's all these scripts. These do a lot of really fun stuff, but that's another thing. Okay. The different things you can add. So nice. I don't really use these, so this is what I keep. Oh, I do use the Eclipse tool. No, I don't. Do I? Maybe I do. I think I do. If you have any extras, it could show up here. But all right. We've got all of these down here. We've got, I mean, I have a bunch of tool presets that I developed. Like whenever I have a fill space, oh man, so many. I will provide these for downloads if you want. Tool presets, brushes. Fortunately, my brushes aren't very well organized. They're always changing as I find new opportunity, new ways to work. But I'm going to deal with that later. And obviously, I forgot to import colors. So I'm going to import the colors that I already have. Like I said, you can click import colors, and I will make this a download so that you can get at it. Just a basic one. I have a more cleaned up one, but I gotta find it. I liked having extra shades like this. All those nice shades I like having in 5 increments. I also have some that are all these different half shades. So they have slightly different opacity, as you can see here. 49. You can adjust that actually. Make that 20 if you want it. Make it less visible. But I find these useful. There's just some things, I don't know, I always find useful. And then I have some basic like vignette and some grayscale. That's another whole thing. We're just going to set everything up. Okay. So I've got like my basic. Also, if you're wanting to import, there's a lot of customized, or sorry, a lot of default brushes. What I do is right off the bat, when I'm setting up my brushes, I export the defaults, just select all, export, and I just put someplace that I can get at, probably create a ToonBoom presets file. So let's just say, I use Dropbox for everything. I'm just gonna say projects. Ugh, this is too much. What am I doing? New folder. Let's just put a new folder. ToonBoom presets. I'm just gonna have that so I can start keeping on hand some, and I'm gonna have default brush presets, just so I can have them, so if I mess up I can reset. Click save. So now I have my brushes all saved in my ToonBoom. So if I have it later, and then you can import a new library. I have a lot of bitmap brushes that I've been building that look like Photoshop, but they're bitmap. They look really good. Took me a while to kind of figure that out, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. Okay. So we have all the brushes set up. You can also do thumbnails, small thumbnails, stroke view, but I keep it on small. I like to see what I got here. You can also adjust a brush by going here and here and here. I like to work kind of a medium hardness, full opacity, but that's another tutorial going into brushes. But for now, you can just adjust brushes there. You can adjust your colors here. You can adjust indefinitely. Oh, I like this color. Wait, where's my saturation? You can change different things, and you can add the colors as you like them. Oh, I like this color. Keep it on hand. ToonBoom, if it's a vector color, you can use the dropper to select it. Otherwise, just, save it. Keep it for later. All right, what else have we got here? We got our library set up. We got the timeline set up. So this is another thing. You can adjust the width of the timeline. I find it also easier. So when you're looking at the thumbnails, they're kind of clunky. Take up even space, a lot of wasted space. I like the timeline because it's just a more information in less space, which, like I said, ToonBoom, you really got to save your space, or else you're drawing in a tiny little square and it's very frustrating. So thumbnails, like I said, I like to use them when I'm looking at how a scene's going. I like to keep an eye on the shapes, how things are divided. If I have too many repetitious shots, it's really easy to see that in the timeline, which is nice. Down here at the bottom, you can change how big your ToonBooms are, or excuse me, your thumbnails. I'm going to silence my phone. All right. So that's nice. I will use this as an overview, but I don't, sometimes I'll work a little bit in this when I'm doing a thumbnail stage, so I can kind of just work in like simple thumbnails. Sometimes when I just want to cover a lot of ground, I'll get it to the right size and I'll just start, I'll actually draw it, because you can draw, you get a big enough brush. Get a big enough brush, right size, you can draw. You can even select the layer you're drawing on. So sometimes I'll thumbnail like this just to, cover a lot of ground. It's a little fickle, but sometimes I'll do that when I need to just see the big picture and not get hung up on the details. So that's a nice view. Usually I'm drawing in camera view. It's also, you can adjust the layers. So I like to keep it so I can at least see what the layer name is. Oh, that's the keyframe thing. That's another thing. Animation mode. You can animate, move the transform the layers. It automatically saves every 10 minutes. Super important with ToonBoom. Oh, I need to plug in my computer. All right. Disaster averted. So, use stage view to sort of set up scenes, get a bigger view. Thumbnails I don't use to navigate. I use actually for an overview, like I said. Super useful. Then we have the timeline, is how I actually navigate. Keep things visible. All in front of me so I can see what's going on. You can change the width. So you can just get a lot of information. You can work really efficiently. That's a super big plus. Now, to finish up, I'm going to go through the preferences. Now, I would recommend just maybe freeze framing on each of these so you can copy the preferences. I'm not saying my preferences are like the best ever. They work really well for me, and if you're new to ToonBoom, you might as well just copy this, and then, or if you work at a studio, obviously you should do what they want you to do if they have specifics. But I'm optimized for working in either 3D space and timeline view. I don't work flat, you know. Anyway, so I have it optimized for that. So shortcuts, I will circle back to that. We're going to start with general. These are my settings, different than necessarily the standard default. You can just copy these. They all have different things. If you're really serious about getting to know ToonBoom, you should familiarize yourself. I do have 3D features activated. Project settings, here's what it looks like. Default panel length, 24. Default fill chart, it doesn't matter because we don't do fill charts, but it's nice that they have that. All right, it's a little archaic remnant from traditional animation, which I suppose, you know, if you're traditionally animating this and exporting these to I actually don't know that pipeline, how that would work in our modern era, but I'm sure there is. I think most people work through ToonBoom Harmony now, but I'm sure people have their own way of working. Okay, colors. I do like to keep the onion skin before and after these colors, as you can see here. So, yeah, I mean, those just colors work for me. I like them not too bright, or else they can be really distracting when you're drawing. So I like the rest of these are kind of default. I just kind of leave them be. That's totally cool. We have a lot of this stuff. I keep the toolbar flat, otherwise you have to double click on stuff, super big pain. We have the camera, like I said, with the title safe. Enable shade, stuff like that. I mean, you can play with all of these things. I would just start this way and then play with it. Camera scale to fade focal length. That's kind of fun. If you really like to be aware of what your cameras are doing, especially in the 3D program, you can 3D aspect of ToonBoom, you can play with that. Use a rotational lever. I don't like this. Some people do. You could play around with it, but I like it when you can adjust from any angle. Rotate from any angle. You'll see what I mean if you're playing with it. And yeah, so this is it. This is advanced. Advanced has, I'm kind of back and forth on optimized drawings. It can affect your playback. Just kind of see how you like it. Optimized drawings can make it a little slower. So I usually don't have it on, but you might appreciate it. Okay, so pitch mode. That's the thing. So I'm going to go back through it. This is what advanced looks like. That's what pitch mode looks like. Import, export. Tools. Camera. Global UI. Colors. Naming. Project settings. General. Shortcuts. Now, shortcuts, like I said, I'm a shortcut fiend. and it makes me really fast. So I'm going to show you what my shortcuts are. So when I have file set, you can see I've deviated like close. Close will, some of these I changed just because it avoids bugs in the program, like quit. Got rid of close and quit just because I kept tapping and accidentally closing my program all the time. Super annoying. Export current image. I have no idea why that's a 0. Don't need that. All right. So that's what I have. Save and pack. Oh, that's another thing I'll get into. But I'll get into that in a moment. Okay. Edit. Nothing changed there. View. I definitely changed a lot of this because when you're tapping around for view, it can just get pretty nasty. You can suddenly be looking at things you don't like. So I got rid of some of these automatic view changes. Do not need that. So that's what view looks like. View shortcuts. Oh, excuse me. That's view shortcuts. All right. We're going to layer shortcuts. That's what I got. I got a lot of layer shortcuts. I mean, this is the madness of my brain. So you might just have to find your own shortcuts. But this is what I got in case you're interested. A lot of them, if you do, they're kind of like a method to my madness. I do not want to bore you with explaining how I figured that out for the moment. All right. Sound, don't have any shortcuts for that. Caption, do not have any shortcuts for that. Color, don't have any shortcut for that. Help, nothing. Drawing tools. Brush, I wanted to be more easy, so I changed it. Cutter tool. These are my shortcuts. I'm just going to show you them. Okay. Oops, we are going back to library. I'll take screen caps too. Put them up somewhere so you can get them. But just showing you. Storyboard. Got these different lock scenes, panel names. Yeah, I'm going to have to go through do something just about this. But camera, tool presets, 3D graph, guides. Those are my settings. So congratulations, you have set up your ToonBoom to be your friend and not your enemy. Nice little space. Move around. You're going to have to play with these. Make sure you have what you need. It's worth the time to do it if you're learning ToonBoom. It's definitely worth the time. So, save. Always save. And we have our nice little setup. So, without further ado, that is how I set up my ToonBoom so that it's really efficient. Thanks. Bye.